Well, hello, Trucker Todd here, and time for an impromptu video. Normally we do shows on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5 p.m. Central Time, but because of a delivery I've got tomorrow at 4:30 in Lubbock, it's going to make it impossible to do that. And that's why we're doing a video at a weird time today. I got to pick up a load at 9 o'clock tonight, and it delivers tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. I got plenty of time to get it there. As a matter of fact, I could actually pick the load up theoretically tonight, take a 10-hour break, and probably still deliver it on time, or split log it, take an 8-hour break, and probably still make it on time. Hadn't decided how I'm going to run it yet or what I'm going to do. So there probably won't be a video tomorrow night. The place I'm delivering to in Lubbock, I've had them unload me as quick as 30 minutes, and I've had them take as long as 6 hours. So it's real hard to do a video when you never know when they're going to knock on the door and say, we're done unloading you and you got to leave. So that's why we'll do the video tonight. And then tomorrow I'll put out a recorded video. I'll finish editing it when I finish this live tonight, and I'll get it out to you guys tomorrow. So you'll still have some content tomorrow, but yeah, that's what we're going to do. I don't know how many people will be here because I said I've caught a lot of people unexpectedly, and we've got a lot to talk about. This is Malfunction Monday. We're going to talk about a lot of things, fuel strategies, things like that. So far, I've had internet issues. I'm in northern Dallas in a town called Denton, and I've had Verizon's not working very well, AT&T's not working very well, and T-Mobile is working mediocre. So that's what I'm using to do this stream is T-Mobile, and hopefully we'll get through it. But anyway, before we jump into that, let me say hi to some of you that's been waiting a while. Looks like the first one in here today was Trucking Narcissist. He got here about 30 minutes ago. Thank you for being the first one in today. And my good friend Brian Walton is here. He's second. And another good friend, Tim Back, is here. And so I'm glad you guys made it in. Also, the Snowman made it in. He says 3 o'clock Eastern time. Uh, so yeah, the reason we're doing a video at 3 o'clock Eastern time today, like I said, this isn't my normal day. And it's as I explained, it's because tomorrow I know I've got a delivery at that time, and I missed a video last week, and so didn't want y'all to think I forgot about you or fell off the planet. But anyway, I appreciate you being here and working me into your busy schedule. Hey, that's the limousine people. Y'all changed your name, kind of threw me off for a minute. Good friend John Toohey is here. He called me right before the show came on and said that he was going to be driving, but he'd try to listen. Him and Tim Back are pretty good friends, and Tim's saying hi to him. Another good guy here, Skyline. We're going to bring him on sometime in the next few weeks. He wants to tell us about his company and how great it is, and so we'll bring him on, let him talk about that sometime soon in the next few weeks. Also, I'm going to be revealing sometime this month where I'm working at, hopefully in the next week or two. That's kind of what I'm holding off for on Skyline. I don't want to book him for the week that I make my announcement. So we'll get it all scheduled here pretty soon. And my schedule's got to calm down. It's rates seem like they're coming up a little bit, and so I'm trying to take advantage of that, get caught up on some things. But I'm going to have some downtime coming up here pretty soon, and so I'm going to have a lot of opportunities to do those kind of things. Also, it looks like I'm going to be selling the Corvette soon. So if you're interested in buying the Corvette, Todd at truckertodd.net, reach out to me and we'll see if we can't put a deal together. Joe Bananas is here. Thank you for coming in, my friend. And another really good guy's here, OTR Vic. Thank you for being here, sir. Skyline is getting loaded in Marion, Ohio. So I spent the majority of the night at a grocery warehouse, and those of you that's been watching me for a while know how much I love grocery warehouses. And this one was no exception. I spent the majority of the night there. They ran me out of hours, and I had to safe haven to a truck stop because, of course, even though they've got an enormous parking lot that they used to allow trucks to park in, they no longer do. So you got to leave there. And so it was 6 or 7 miles over here to the, may have been 8 miles, something like that, over here to the truck stop. And I did safe haven over here because I was completely out of hours after sitting there, I don't know, 5 hours or however long it was, 6 hours. Cameron says he is stuck at the moment. What's going on? Broke down in Nashville, hit a bump, and the spring came out on the passenger side. Wow, that's crazy. All right, let's talk about that for a second. If you as a state, Tennessee, Nashville, if you as a state have roads that are so bad that when drivers are hitting bumps, their springs are coming out, might be time to do some road repair. Just saying. That's insane, man. Uh, you broke a spring. How long are you going to be down? Have they told you yet? Good friend Manny Rodriguez is here. Thank you for coming in, man. All right, so I got another thing I want to talk about, and full transparency here. I invited this guy to come on the show today and give his side of the story. He said okay, but he never sent me his email so I could put him on. So I'm going to read the text messages. I'm not going to say his name, and I'm going to do my best to represent his side of the story as best as I can, and I'll even debate myself. I'm going to do my best to give his side of the argument. We're talking about fuel strategies, and a lot of you are going to think, well, why should I care about that? Your fuel is more than likely your biggest expense, and if you can figure out how to save on fuel, how to buy fuel properly, you can save a lot of money. Now, you know, there's competing strategies, competing theories on the best way to buy fuel, what works best, how to save the most. I'm going to tell you my strategy today and what works for me. And then we're going to use the normal argument that I always use here. If your way's working, if you're happy with what you're making, if you're happy with what you're spending on fuel, then by all means, keep doing what you're doing. But if you're looking at your expenses and you're going, man, I'd like to spend less on fuel, or, you know, man, I'd like to make a little more money, then or two. And if it works, just go back to your way. But anyway, a couple more comments. Cameron says 2 more hours waiting. He's been down for 3 hours. So I hate that, man. Hopefully they'll get you up and will you be doing a video on the Corvette with details and such? Yeah, there's actually already a video out about the Corvette. I did it well back when I bought it, and it's sat in storage. I think I've only driven it a couple of times since then. It's in the same identical condition that it was back then, but yeah, I can when I get home, uh, I can take another video of it. Got to finish putting it back together. You can remember originally the speedometer wasn't working, and I bought a replacement speedometer and I'm in the process of installing that. And so if I can get that put in while I'm there, I don't know how long I'm going to be in Lubbock, but if I can get that put in real quick, then yeah, I'll do a video, take y'all for a ride in it, all that good stuff. Before I sell it. There's a Corvette dealership that does like classic cars there in Lubbock. I believe it's called Texas Corvette or something like that. and I may just take it over there and short sell it to get rid of it quickly. Or I may sell it through an auction, or if one of my viewers wants it, I'll give them first crack at it. Snowman wants to know how everybody is out there. Okay, so while y'all are answering that, I really want to talk about this fuel thing a little bit because it's really, really important. I'm going to actually pull up this person's messages. I got to close out that for now. Oh, I did the wrong one. All right, other phone. So I need to point out a couple of things. Um, I need to point out a couple of things before we do this video. And that is this person works for Dart Transit, and Dart Transit pays like I get paid now after every load. So a lot of guys at Dart will tell you that the secret to making money at Dart is to buy just enough fuel for each load. And they'll say that even if you pay more for that fuel, just buy enough to do each load, and that way you get a check after every trip. I would technically agree if you're in financial straits and you're needing money really bad. However, uh, if if you can get to a point where you look at your fuel on a 30-day average and you can buy fuel in the cheapest states using a good fuel card like ES Advantage, which there's a link in my description below, or even Mudflap, or if you're with a company that has a great discount, over the long haul, you're going to save money. And when I first started driving, there wasn't the kind of apps and stuff that are out there now to help you buy fuel. Heck, a lot of you on your ELD have a fuel optimizer that it'll even tell you what states to buy fuel in or what truck stops to buy fuel at. And I still recommend double checking them against your own fuel card and apps because a lot of times you can beat those rates. But you've got to do more than just fill up every time the gauge says E or fill up every time it gets to a half a tank. And hopefully I can articulate that in this video in a way where you'll understand what I'm saying. Let me get up here to the top. We had a pretty lengthy conversation, and there's some things that are going to become obvious in this text message setting. And I don't want y'all to think I'm picking on this guy. I told him I was going to do this, and I told him it's because I get these questions a lot, and I think it can help a lot of people. Now, I know as soon as I start doing this, some of you are going to say I only fuel at TA Petro because I think their fuel gets better fuel economy, or I only fuel at QTs or Quick Trips because they're usually cheaper. And all of those statements may be true in regional areas of the country. I still recommend checking through an app or something because you never know. There may be a new truck stop that opened up and they've got their fuel really low because they're trying to draw people in. It's called a draw. It's a marketing tactic. And what they're hoping is that you'll go there, you'll fuel. While you're there, you'll buy lunch, get you a drink, something like that. You'll go, hey, this is a pretty cool truck stop. They're friendly. And then hopefully you'll start shopping there and becoming a loyal customer. So a lot of people, a lot of truck stop chains will do draws to try to get you in. Pilot Flying J right now is doing 3 free drinks a week. What are they hoping? They're hoping you'll go in there, get your 3 free drinks. You'll eat in the restaurant while you're there. Maybe you'll take a shower. Maybe you'll pay for parking. And you'll go, hey, I didn't realize Pilot Flying J was this nice. I think I'll start shopping here again. And so it's a form of advertising. You can't really blame anybody for doing that. Let's see. Almost there. Now, this guy also, uh, I've been trying to get him to get the ES Advantage card, and I think he's got it, but I don't think he's funded it yet. One thing that's obvious is a lot of guys don't understand what a fuel surcharge is. And I'm still trying to get him to yesterday's because we've talked about fuel surcharge before. I still don't think he grasped it. A lot of guys get fuel surcharge and fuel discount confused. So a fuel discount is the amount you pay for the fuel after your company or your fuel card negotiates a discount. This is typically done off the volume. So what'll happen is your carrier will negotiate with a trucking chain, say a Love's or a Pilot or a Flying J or a TA or a Petro, and they'll say, if we buy 10,000 gallons a month, how big of a discount can we get? And it's in the truck stop's advantage to make a deal like that because they're sales out of that. So they'll say, we'll knock off X number of cents a gallon, or we'll do a cost plus thing so that you save some money on fuel and we get that business. And so also the fuel cards do the same thing. You get you an EFS or a NASTIC or whatever card. They contact all these chains and they say, we'll sell this many gallons of fuel for you. What kind of discount can you give us? And oftentimes they'll negotiate a rate. They'll keep a certain cents amount of that, 5 cents, 10 cents, whatever. And that's how they make a profit on that deal. A fuel surcharge is totally different. A fuel surcharge is based on the national average of fuel. And so the more fuel goes up, the larger your fuel surcharge is. Now, how you make that work has nothing to do with what fuel stop you stop at or anything like that, how much fuel you buy. It's a cents per mile thing. And so the way you make that benefit you the most is by getting good fuel economy and buying your fuel smartly. That's it. It's simple. So it doesn't matter whose fuel card you use, if you use the company's or your own, the fuel surcharge is what it is. Now, when you run the spot market, regardless of what people tell you, there's really not a fuel surcharge. I just booked a load this morning where it shows a fuel surcharge on there, but if you add the numbers up, it comes out to the same rate I negotiated with them. So what, $900. They'll say 600 of it was line haul, 300 of it was fuel surcharge. I don't know why they do that. I don't know if it's taxes or what, but whatever rate you tell them you're going to pull that load for, that's what it is. And they figured the fuel surcharge into that. So it's really non-existent. I don't care if they put it on there or not. Just pay me what the rate we agreed to. Now, when you work for a company, like when I worked for Swift or when I worked for Dart, they do have a fuel surcharge. And I'll tell you point blank, Swift's fuel surcharge was excellent. It was oftentimes it paid me more than what I spent on diesel that week. And so, but you got to buy fuel in the right spot. And that's why that ES Advantage fuel card is so important. And you got to work on your fuel economy. That's why a lot of times at Swift, I was driving 60, 62 miles an hour, trying to maximize my fuel economy. But before you start buying fuel, you need to understand what a fuel discount is and what a fuel surcharge is. And I've got older videos out about that. I haven't done any recently. Maybe I need to circle back around and make new recorded videos about that. Also, other YouTubers have put stuff out about that. And you need to understand what a fuel discount and a fuel surcharge is. So I'm going to start there. Let's see. I'm going to start. This is from a previous conversation we had. He said, and do you think I should get the fuel surcharge even if I don't use the fuel card with Dart? Yes, the fuel surcharge has nothing to do with how you buy your fuel. If you pay with cash, if you pay with a credit card, if you use the company fuel card. Now, some companies will force you to use their fuel card. I've heard drivers say, yeah, the company I'm at won't let me use ES Advantage. I have to use their fuel card. Me personally, I wouldn't be very excited about working for a company like that. Why would that company be opposed to you saving extra money or making extra money? And of course, we all know the reason. It's because they're making money off the fuel card. And I kind of get that too. They've got some administrative fees, they've got some bookkeeping fees. And so I don't fault them for needing to make a little money on that. I told him, yes, the fuel surcharge has nothing to do with where you fuel or how you pay for it. He put, oh, I didn't know Dart's giving us 47-cent fuel surcharge. I guess that's all right. Now this was done on August 17th. So you can go back and look at August 17th and see if that's a good amount or not. Um, I would say back then that was probably about average, probably not terrible, probably not great, but that's just me thinking off the top of my head. He said they got a lot of customers right now. They're going away with broker freight. The new CEO is getting new customers. Yeah, I've heard that. The new CEO at Dart landed a bunch of FedEx freight, FedEx ground to be specific, and he's trying to turn the ship around over there. I don't know much about him, but I've been watching his little YouTube message that he puts out every day, just because I still got a lot of friends at Dart, and I want to know what's going on over there. But that's not what this video is about. I want to stick on buying fuel and how that works. He said, "My bad for missing your live. Man, I've been busy today." I've said, "It's okay." He said, "We have been busy." I said, "Yeah." He said, "I finished for the day. Send another today at 9.6 and 8.3. I said, "Huh?" Yeah, his sentence didn't make sense. And then he said he wants to know if 8.3 to 9.6 is good for a 2018 Kenworth. I said, "Are you talking about fuel economy? If you are, then that's about average. It's a tough question to answer because it depends what part of the country you're in and how heavy your loads are." He said he's been in Missouri, Texas, Kansas, Illinois, and in Tennessee. I said, "How heavy were your loads? How did you calculate your fuel economy?" This is another thing. A lot of guys just look at the digital gauge on the dash, and it can be as much as a mile and a half a gallon off. There's apps that you can download, and I'm not endorsing any of them right now, but there's a lot of them. Kevin Rutherford has some where you type in how much fuel you put in at the pump and your mileage and all that, and it'll calculate your actual fuel economy. Um, Mine has been all over the board lately. As you guys know, I hadn't fixed my APU yet. Speaking of that, I need more air. All right, sorry about that. So that's why you kind of get crazy numbers. Yesterday, for example, I was in the mid to high sevens. That was with a very, very heavy load of talc powder, which I think is like talcum powder. Messy stuff. Took me forever to sweep out my trailer. And then after that, I followed it up with some pumpkins, also pretty heavy load. So I was pretty happy to be at 7.5, 7 3/4. But I was running across parts of New Mexico and parts of Texas, so it was fairly flat land too. I say that I was on what is that, 84, and there's some pretty good hills or mountains or whatever you want to call them out there as well. Now remember, I asked him how he calculated his fuel economy, and all of this is getting to a point. I feel like this can help a lot of people because I seem to get these questions over and over and over. He said, "My truck has a screen that says miles per gallon, and it's pretty accurate. Even if it's pretty accurate, it's not as accurate as getting one of these apps, typing in your gallons, typing in your mileage, and getting an actual number." And it's important because if you start seeing it go down, and I'm not talking day to day or even week to week, on a month to month average, if you start seeing it go down a little bit, maybe it's an early warning of some problems that you need to get your truck looked at. Let me get another drink real quick. All right. So all of these things are factoring into where we're going with this. He said, I got 97 gallons in Eufaula, Oklahoma to Texas, then Texas to Kansas City. Then I got fuel in Kansas City, and I don't need fuel for this load going to Tennessee. So I would have, and I'm sure you guys have got it memorized, I would have used apps and figured out which of those states had the cheapest fuel along my route with my ES Advantage fuel card, and I would have tried to get the fuel there. He is trying to fuel in a way where he can do an occasional trip with no fuel, which is great, but let me get you to think about it this way. If you run, and we're going to pick round numbers here, I'm not saying this is your numbers. Let's say you run 10,000 miles a month and you're getting 5 miles a gallon. Now, most of you are getting more than 10,000 miles a month, and most of you are getting more than 5 miles a gallon. I'm just picking round numbers because I can do them in my head. That's 2,000 gallons. And let's say that we knew every month you were going to burn 2,000 gallons of fuel. You're probably not, probably 1,800 or whatever, but let's say that that's the case. 2,000 gallons. You buy 2,000 gallons at the very cheapest place you could that month. Now, there's going to be, there's going to be, let me see how I want to say this. What this guy is doing is he's buying it, trying to get a trip in for free, but I guarantee you he's paying more for fuel than if he thought of it on a month-long stretch instead of a trip-by-trip stretch. He's worried about getting a check after every trip, which is more indicative of, that makes me think that maybe his rate over at DART is not as great as it should be if he's having to do that with his fuel. Instead, what he should be doing is looking for the very cheapest places he could get fuel. He said, do you always fuel up? No, it depends on where I'm going, what I'm hauling, what my next load's going to be, things like that. You have to, it's called strategic fueling, and that's exactly what it is. I just watched a beatdown in the NFL last night. The Cowboys beat the Giants in every possible way that they could do it. And, the very first series of the game, it looked like the Giants were going to run away with it. And, then they had that mishap there at the end of the first drive and had the blocked field goal that got ran back. And all of a sudden the game flipped and it was a one-sided game for the rest of the night. And some of you, that's what happens out here in trucking. You have one little mishap and it flips the game, and all of a sudden you're chasing the whole game. And you have to, the coaches, what I was trying to get with that was they usually pre-plan 10 to 12 plays or 10 to 15 plays for the start of the game. They script them. They say, all right, these are the first 15 plays we're going to call. Then we'll see how the game's going, and we'll make a determination after that. You've got to do the same thing with fuel. Sure, stuff's going to happen. You're going to miscalculate your fuel economy sometime, and you may have to stop and get 25 gallons at a place you weren't planning to stop. Or you may have to get 50 gallons here to make it to a cheaper place over there and then fill up over there. But you need to strategically buy your fuel, not for each trip, but for a month to month. All right, I'm going to burn gallons this month. Where's the very cheapest states? Where's the very cheapest fuel stops? I can get that 2,000 gallons. Most of you do a better job of fuel buying with your personal vehicle at home than you do with your semi. You'll drive, I got an uncle, he'll drive all the way across town to save a nickel on gas for his hybrid car. And you got to do the same thing in a truck. I'm not saying drive out of route, but I'm saying look along your route, find the cheapest places. Some apps will even subtract out IFTA. Now, there's competing theories there about if you even worry about IFTA because you're going to pay it either way, and just buy it in the very cheapest states you can, because IFTA will work itself out. I'm not here to debate IFTA today, but I am here to debate the benefits of buying your fuel the absolute cheapest you can. Another thing, and we're going to get to it in a minute. This guy said he fills up every time he gets to a half a tank. Well, that means on most days he's carrying around 800 pounds of extra weight in diesel that he's not using. Now, I'm not saying run it to empty. He was like, well, do you run it to empty and then fill up? Do you run it to half and fill up? And you'll see that here in the messages. No, I look at my route, I see where it's the cheapest, and I buy it there. If it's 100 gallons that fills it up, fine. If I'm low and it's the cheapest for that trip and probably the next trip, then I fill it up. You have to put some thought into it and some strategy into it and run it like a business. He said, for sure, I've only spent 600 for fuel for 1,500 miles so far, if it ain't too bad. Well, again, there's not enough information there to know if that's good or bad. Um, you know, if you bought that 600 gallons in California, that's 100 gallons. So you had a half tank there already. Um, if you bought it in a cheap state, uh, certain parts of Texas, things like that, then you probably got quite a bit of fuel. But at he's looking at the wrong criteria to know if he's got a good deal or not. Then he asked how I'm doing with my truck, and he's referring to fuel economy, things like that. Said it depends on where I'm at and what I'm hauling. Lately, I've had a lot of heavy loads, so I'm down around 8 miles per gallon, sometimes less. It also depends on how fast I'm going. He said, which is probably better fuel mileage than some trucks out here. I don't know how people afford to drive long nose Pete's in a market like this. Well, a long nose Pete is for the guy that's hauling specialized freight and he's getting $3 or $4 a mile. He can probably afford it. But if you're hauling general freight in a dry van, you're going to have a hard time making it in in the market right now. Now, there's another state. I try to never buy fuel in Oregon. These are just things you learn over time. But get you an app, one you trust, and buy your fuel at the cheapest possible place. Quit worrying about what trip you're on or how it's going to affect your payday, because over that 30-day run, if you're buying fuel at the very cheapest place you can, it's going to benefit you. Now, yesterday I did not do that. Yesterday I fueled up at a place that was, well, I didn't fill up. I bought, I think it was 80 gallons at a place, and it was going to, originally I was going to get like 25 gallons and go to another place that was 40 cents cheaper, but I was only going to get like 60 or 80 gallons there, let's say 70. So for that savings, it wasn't worth it to me to make an extra stop, and I was kind of in a hurry on the load. And so I just went ahead and paid the higher rate for 80 gallons so I could get going. But could I have saved a little more money if I'd have put 25 in there and went up the road and got it a little cheaper? Yeah, I could have saved probably $20, $30, something like that. But I didn't want the extra time of stopping and all that. I just wanted to go. So let's see. Here we get into those questions I was talking about a minute ago. Do you save money when you fill your tanks back up to full at half a tank, or do you lose money? So again, you're carrying extra weight, and some loads, especially if you do a lot of beer loads in Colorado, they'll have in your dispatch, don't show up with more than a half a tank because of the weight. There's times that you will have to run your tanks low. I don't concentrate on that. I concentrate on buying my fuel at the cheapest possible place. I think sometimes in trucking, we try to make things more complicated than what they really are. Trucking is all about maximizing your revenue and minimizing your expenses. If you'll just think like that, how can I make more and spend less? That's really all it is. Now I could do video after video and break it down and make it all complicated, but that's what it is right there. He asked me again, same question, is it best to fill your truck up at a half a tank or is it best to run your tanks out? I answered again, same thing I said this whole text series. Depends on where you're at and what states you're running into. Yes, buy your fuel where it's cheapest. Everything else will work itself out. Well, then he gives me his itinerary for a week. I'm going to be in Arkansas from Georgia and then to Bennyville, Arkansas to Muskogee, Oklahoma, Muskogee, Oklahoma to Illinois. Again, I need to look at the specific route. What cities are you going to be going through? I don't have time to do his route planning and fuel planning for him. He'll have to do that. But all of this, he could look on an app and figure out where he's at. He could go, okay, I've got a half tank. I can go 600 miles. Where's the cheapest place I can get fuel in the next 600 miles? When he gets to that place, he can think, okay, I know in 150 miles I'm going to be in another state that's cheaper. Maybe I just want to get 25 or 30 gallons here and get to that cheaper state and fill up there. That's all it is, folks. I tell him again, you need to be filling up in the cheaper states. I can tell by what you're saying that you're filling up wrong and it's costing you a few $100s a week. I stand by that. I've got two guys that are brothers that are a team that they told me I saved them over $600 I think it was, I don't remember if it was $600 a week or $600 a month by just following my advice. Then he says, and watch, he'll change his story in a little bit. At first, he'll tell me that he fills up every time he gets to a half a tank. And then when I shoot that down, then he says he runs his tanks out. So I think probably what's going on here is he's trying several different theories at the same time instead of sticking with one and then making minor changes to get the results he wants. He said, I won't let my truck go below a half a tank. I said, why? You're carrying around a lot of extra fuel that's costing you fuel economy because of the extra weight. He said, because the way that my fuel surcharge covers majority of the fuel, because I get below have to take my fuel surcharge will not cover half of it in some loads. I won't even need fuel for those loads. So again, this is we're back to fuel surcharge. This guy doesn't understand what a fuel surcharge is. And what he's saying is, if I fill up and it's on a short load in a cheap state and my fuel surcharge is only $200, then my fuel surcharge didn't pay for that fuel. I get that. But if you think of it in the long term over a 30-day stretch, if you're buying fuel in the cheaper states and you're concentrating on fuel economy, then you're maximizing your fuel surcharge and your fuel discounts, and you will make more money. I said fuel surcharge has nothing to do with how much fuel is in your tank. Buying fuel at the cheapest possible prices will save you even more money and maximize your fuel surcharge. You can buy fuel however you want to. You asked me how to do it, and I'm trying to tell you the correct way. He said, oh, for sure, because it costs me more money to fill it up at empty than it does on half. Costs me like 200 to 300. Yeah, but this guy still doesn't get it. He's saying if I fill up, it costs me twice as much as if I fill up at a half a tank. Yeah, you're also filling up twice as often, and you're also twice as likely to buy fuel at a more expensive fuel stop. Again, I think he doesn't totally understand all the factors in play here. I put that doesn't matter over the course of a 30-day month. He put, I got the less gallons I got a pump in this truck, the more money I save. I'm having a bad day for doing 9.6 as of right now. Don't get it, folks. By running my tanks close to empty, it was costing me about $600 a month. I think he means $1,500 a month. I don't know. Sometimes these sentences don't make sense. We're all using voice to text. And he said, and I was in the cheap states. And then he had a typo here. He said, I lost $5,600 last month because I kept filling my truck close to empty. I said, I don't understand your last comment. The only thing I can tell you for sure is that you're buying your fuel wrong and it's costing you money. I don't think you're understanding what I'm saying. I'm not telling you to run your tanks to empty. I'm telling you to fuel strategically, and it's very obviously you're not doing that. I'll explain on Tuesday's show if you want to watch it. If you lost $5,600 last month, you have more problems than fuel. I usually spend a little over $6,000 a month on fuel, and you lost that much. He said, yeah, I meant I'll spend $5,600 in fuel last month by reading my text completely out, or by running my tanks completely out, having to buy 100 to 120 gallons at a time. Now, here we go. What app are you using to try to decide where to buy your fuel? I've been going between my fuel card and Dart's fuel card. I just told you I'm getting it for $371. It was 100 gallons, $371 of 120. The second was $400. That half a tank, I only spent like $200. I really think we got trying to mislead me. I really think this is a case of a guy that doesn't know his numbers. And I doubt very seriously that every fuel stop he stopped at in all of those states was $371 a gallon. Maybe it was. Maybe all the stars aligned and all the truck stops conspired to sell him fuel at $371 a gallon, but I don't think so. And again, if in that route of all those states he went to, if 371 was the cheapest fuel stop in all of those states, then I would have filled up at that fuel stop. And if I didn't have enough to get to that fuel stop, I would have bought just enough fuel to get to that fuel stop, because that's where your maximum savings is. I said, you're not understanding what I'm saying. What states are you buying the fuel in? So here's confirmation of what I was saying. Oklahoma, Missouri, Texas, Ohio, Georgia, and Illinois. So he's telling me that at 2 fuel stops in Oklahoma, 1 fuel stop in Missouri, 1 fuel stop in Texas, 1 fuel stop in Ohio, 1 in Georgia, and 1 in Illinois, all of them were $371 a gallon. I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong. And if he wants to send me a settlement, I'll come back on here Thursday and I'll tell you, oh, I was wrong. All of those fuel stops were $371 a gallon. Then he says in Texas he got it for $361 a gallon, but his fuel lot was on, but he had it cost me a whole bunch of money. I was running the tanks out. Again, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make him understand. If he had previously been paying $371 a gallon, $371 a gallon, and Texas was $361 a gallon, then Texas is where he should have filled up, regardless of what the total amount was, because over the course of the lifespan of that tank of fuel, he's saving money because he bought it cheaper. I don't think he gets it. Here's where I invited him on the show. I got an idea. Why don't you come on my Tuesday show and we'll go through this together? A lot of people have the same question as you do, and I can help a lot of people at the same time I help you. Oh yeah, I was just thinking if I put less gallons on my truck, that it's cheaper to put a half a tank 80 gallons than 120. That was my idea. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm still making money though. Well, now he's making money, but a second ago he told me he lost money last month. So I don't know. I said, how many miles do you run a month? And this is where the real problem is. He said he's a team and he runs 10 to 15,000 miles a month. A team should be running a lot more than that, 20, 25,000 a month, something like that. Uh, he's way below where he should be on team miles. That's where his money's going. They're sitting way too much if they're a team and they're only getting 10 to 15,000 miles a month. Heck, I have almost 11,000 almost every month. Usually 10 to 11,000. It just depends how much I run. He says on average about 10 to 13,000, give or take, depending on the month. Depends on how many days you know that select that. Yeah. He says he only has 28,000 miles for the quarter. And I reminded him, that's only about 9,000 miles a month. That's not great for a team. And I said, okay, what's your average fuel economy? He says 8.42 and then puts a bunch of numbers after that. And then I reminded him 28,000 miles for a quarter is only about 9,000 miles for a month. He sent me a purple heart. He said when he gets settled tomorrow, he'll see where he's at. That's the last time he checked it. Could have more. He's done like 48 loads. I'm on 42 right now. We're close enough that we could probably compare numbers. He might actually beat me because I'm doing the spot market and he's doing contract freight. But if he contacts me sometime today or tomorrow, we may do that and compare settlements. Not for me to go, haha, look how much better I'm doing than you, or him to go, haha, look how much better I'm doing than you. But his numbers should be roughly twice mine if he's running as a team, and it doesn't sound like they are. I think your numbers are wrong, but even if they're correct, that means about 342 during the corner, or about 1,100 gallons a month. That might be right. That'd be almost 300 gallons a week. If you're burning 1,100 gallons a month to do the miles you're doing, wouldn't you want to buy those 1,100 gallons at the cheapest possible place? And again, he's confused about the discount and the fuel surcharge. Yeah, the cheapest discount I get is $3.62 a gallon is the cheapest. Yeah, but can you stop there twice a week or 3 times a week and fill up? Or are you going to other states like you just told me? He said I burnt like 900 to 1,000 a week on average if I run my tanks all the way out. Again, whether you fill up at a half a tank or run your tanks all the way out, that's not, you're going to spend the same amount. You're going to burn, according to the numbers you gave me, about 1,100 gallons a month. Now, it might vary slightly if you're running, if you're filling up at a half a tank because you're carrying more weight around. But anyway, I think I've beat that drum hard enough. Let's keep going. I actually told him what I just told y'all. You burn the same amount of fuel whether you run your tanks out or not. You actually burn more fuel if you don't run your tanks out because you're fueling up when you get to the halfway mark. You're still carrying around approximately 800 pounds of fuel all the time. Extra weight takes away from fuel economy. He said, yeah, my power line needs to be on for Missouri to Texas. It dried up because the bad market. So evidently he used to have I think he meant power lane. He used to have a power lane for Dart running Texas to Missouri, and they don't have that for him anymore. Then he said, oh, for sure. I reminded him, send me your link for your email, and I'll send you a link 30 minutes before the show comes on. When I fill up at the halfway point, I don't need to fuel for the next load. I just keep moving. Well, that depends on how long the next load is. If you were running coast to coast, I guarantee you that's not the case. If you're doing little short 200 or 300 miles loads, then yeah, you might could do another load. But if you're running a team, you don't want 200 or 300 mile loads. You want 1,500 mile loads or 2,500 mile loads. So it sounds like some of your problem might be not understanding a fuel surcharge and a fuel discount. And some of your problem might be that you have a dispatcher that's not familiar with how to dispatch a team. I told him I don't even look at my fuel gauge when deciding where to fuel. Now that's a half truth. I realized that after I said it. I look at it, but I look at it from the standpoint of, all right, if there's cheaper fuel up at 200 miles up the road, do I have enough fuel to make it there, or do I need to put 25 gallons in so I can get to that cheaper place? So I do look at my fuel gauge. What I was meaning to say was that I don't let my fuel gauge dictate my fuel route, if that makes sense. He asked me again, do you run your tanks all the way out? I said, it just depends. I don't base my fueling decisions on my gauge. Yesterday, I bought 80 gallons of fuel to get me to a cheaper place, and then I bought 100 gallons of fuel. I saved over $100 at the pump by just doing that. Imagine if I'm able to do that every day or a couple of times a week. And that's the point I'm trying to make here. And I know we got a lot of comments over here. We're fixing to get to those. I just want to wrap this up because I think it'll give us a lot to talk about. And my goal is maybe it'll help one person adjust their fueling strategies and maybe make a couple of $100 extra a week or something like that. He said, oh, for sure, if we're going to a high price place, I usually get the fuel in the cheapest before I cross in there. But you said, and then I told him, but you said for a while you were running your tanks all the way down and filling up, and now you are running your tanks to half and filling up. Both of those strategies are costing you money. He said, I'm making more money by doing it. I have a tank. I was when I ran. Oh, it's his voice to text. It's not him. He's a really smart guy, and I'm not really trying to beat him up. What he meant to say was, I'm making more money by doing it at a half a tank than I was when I ran my tanks out, because whatever use of the fuel surcharge goes on to the next load, then it does just keeps on and on. So basically, he still, even after I explained it, doesn't understand what a fuel surcharge is or how it works. I see what he's saying about the fluctuation, but over the course of a month, if he's strategically buying his fuel, it'll work itself out. He said, when I'm on, like if I might have a tank, I'll look at the cheapest fuel stop where I'm headed to, and then that's where I get fuel at. So now he's kind of changing from what he originally said. Now he's saying he does look for the cheapest place, but we know that can't be true because he told us numerous times that he used to run his tanks all the way out. Now he fills them up at a half a tank, regardless of where he's at. I told him, I said, I'm not trying to upset you, but I think you're wrong. And I think you don't fully understand what the fuel surcharge is. If you want to send me your email, I'll have you on the Tuesday show. If not, still watch, because we're going to talk about this conversation. He says, sounds good. I feel like fuel surcharge about 300 to 400 per load, and whatever I'm not using, I get back. So again, he's strategizing for individual trips instead of over the course of the month. I said, I can't go into in depth right now because I'm about to make a delivery and I've got to book more loads for this week. And he says, sounds good. So that's where we ended it. And again, there's no hard feelings there. And if he's happy doing what he's doing, then I'm happy for him. I just think that there's a better way. His numbers, as you saw, were kind of all over the place. And so it makes me wonder if he's either not calculating them right or if he's guessing or what. But let's get back up here. We got lots of comments that happened. I didn't even realize there was this many. And, you know, sometimes it may look like I'm calling somebody out and I'm really not. It's just, I get these questions a lot. And if it looks like a point where I could help a lot of people at once and quite honestly save myself some time at the same time, then I try to do that. All right, I'm going to try to figure out some of these comments as best I can. Snowman says, "Hi, is everybody out there?" And Snowman says, "That doesn't spend autumn. Can't be a little bit complicated to install." Oh, we're talking about the Corvette dash. Yeah. My problem is, I'm going to be honest, I got big hands and they don't fit behind that instrument cluster. I've dropped the steering column to try to give myself some more room. And the wires for like the instrument lights and stuff are really short. And I'm probably going to have to get somebody with better motor skills and better dexterity than me to hook that stuff up for me. Snowman says, "I have to be 100% match." Snowman says, "I'm doing great. I'm home today." Yes, yes, yes. Snowman says, "I'm taking my 34. You go. Enjoy that." Thank you for spending your time off with me. I appreciate that. I mentioned this earlier in the show. A lot of people go to QT, including me. There's a QT when you're going into Louisiana. What is that exit number? Like exit 8 or something? They've always got super cheap fuel, and I'll stop there sometimes and fill up. But I'm not brand loyal to any truck stop. I'll buy it wherever it's cheapest. The only thing a little bit is some of these mom and pop places, if they don't look like they got a lot of traffic, I might fly by them because you don't want to get some old fuel or fuel with water in the tank or nothing like that. But if they got steady traffic, they're usually a pretty good place to go. I'll tell you another way you can know you're stopping at a good fuel stop. If you see a lot of independent owner operators there, then you probably picked a good place because they're shopping for the best fuel prices. If you see a lot of mega carriers there, it's probably a good deal for the mega carriers. It's probably not a good deal for the independent driver. Trucking narcissist, proper fueling is so crucial to being successful and profitable. Yes, sir, I agree with you. And it's one of those things, you can't get 3 truck drivers to agree for more than 15 minutes about the proper way to do it. I'm just telling you what makes the most sense to me, what works best for me. And me and the owner of the company I'm working for talked about it, and I was relieved that he agreed with me. I was like, oh, I don't want to have this debate. Sorry, my truck's doing a regen. And but yeah, think of it on a month to month deal. And the reason is you're going to pull a whole variety of loads over the course of that month. Some are going to be heavy, some are going to be light, some are going to be in the mountains, some are going to be on flat land. And if you're doing it trip to trip and going, well, I got paid $400 surcharge this trip and I only bought $250 worth of fuel, I made $150 on my fuel surcharge. Sort of. You might make a lot more if you figured it on a monthly basis instead of a trip by trip basis. But guys do that because they're with these companies, these medium to large companies, and their rate's not high enough. So they're so dependent on their fuel surcharge, getting it at the end of every trip, that, I mean, I've seen guys run their tanks completely out of fuel trying to stretch and just make it to get that settlement in so they could get a check. And if you just quit worrying about that and just buy it at the cheapest places, then yeah, you might have a trip every once in a while where you're in the hole. But over the course of the month, you're going to have some really nice checks. Well, maybe not in this economy. You're going to have some really mediocre checks, and you'll be proud to get those mediocre checks. Snowman says, okay. My friend Craig Hutchison is here. Thanks for coming in, man. Yeah, you can, especially if you're getting over, well, it depends on the company you're at. At Swift, if you got above 8 miles a gallon, I think it was like 8.33, you really started seeing it at the current fuel prices. Back when fuel was really high, I was making $150, $200 a week off the fuel surcharge. And we got paid weekly. I didn't have to do this, crazy stuff, filling it a half a tank or running my tank empty to make money. I just ran it like a business, bought it where it was cheap, did the loads that benefited my truck the most, and away I went. I'm going to be driving. I'm going to go ahead and listen. Well, good deal, Chris. Thank you for being here. Be careful out there. I'll be on the road in a little while. Picking up over in Wilmer, Texas. Wasn't Wilmer the pig on Charlotte's Web? Anyway, picking up in Wilmer, Texas, and going to Lubbock, Texas for tomorrow afternoon delivery. Cameron says you're right about the fuel surcharge, but I also look for a credible, cheap. Yeah, so you're doing the same thing I am, because I don't get a fuel surcharge anymore, even despite what the brokers say. But I negotiate my own rates, so I just negotiate it in my rate. But it's critical, and if you're just driving till it's empty and filling up wherever you're at, and you'd be surprised how many people I talk to that do that. Or I talked to a guy one day that his fuel card with his company offered no discount at any place, and he was just filling up wherever. He didn't care what the pump price was or nothing. And I told him about the Fuel Book app, and I said, at least this will save you a little money. It'll tell you the cheapest places until you can afford to get that ES Advantage card that I've got. Thank you, Skyline. I appreciate that. While we're on that subject, if you guys appreciate this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it on your social media platforms, tell your friends about it, subscribe, do all those things. Don't forget, I've got an Instagram, I've got a LinkedIn, I got a TikTok we're launching. It's got 200 and something subscribers. When it gets to 1,000, we'll do some lives over there too. So join me in all those places. It really helps me out. Also, look in the description of this video, right below the video, click on the title, and there's a lot of other great information. Also in the ticker below this video is my website, my email, all those things, ways that you can reach out and be a part of the community. And by the way, thank you all for being here. Also, this is another way you can help. This is also greatly appreciated. My good friend DIY Semi. I say my good friend, I'm just getting to know the guy with the $5 tip. Thank you. I appreciate that very much, my friend. DIY, I'm sure you're familiar with him. He's got a very large YouTube channel. If you're not, he has a few trucks, does a lease purchase thing over there. He's got a Mac I'd really like to have, I believe, based on the way he described it. And he's really up on maintenance tips and things like that. Matter of fact, I might email him after the show. I got a question about my truck, and I think he might know the answer to it. But if you hadn't checked out DIY Semi, check him out. He's also on Cash is King Trucking fairly often, which is another great channel. Really lighthearted. You're guaranteed to get a laugh when you go over there. Definitely the best thumbnails on YouTube, which is the little pictures before the video. They're hilarious. So check those guys out if you hadn't never done that, and you'll be glad you did. Let me get back up here to where I was at. Snowman says, okay, makes sense. Thank you for the information. No problem. Been a while since I did a video like this, and it never hurts to hit it again. I'm going to try to release a recorded video tomorrow. It's just a short one, probably 6 or 7 minutes. And it's going to answer a question that I've been getting a lot lately, specifically about dry van trailers and vented van trailers and things like that. So if you're subscribed, you'll receive a notification when that video comes out. If not, just type Trucker Todd in the search bar tomorrow after 9 a.m. Central Time, and the video should pop right up if I get it edited tonight. Skyline says, let's hit the thumbs up, guys. This will help me because I'm thinking about buying a truck with Crete. Yes, sir. And Skyline, since we're planning to have you on in the coming weeks, feel free to email me if you got any questions about fueling or things like that, or ask me on the show and we'll try to cover it there. And but it's the only dumb question is the one you don't ask. And so ask your questions, and not only will I answer, but a lot of times we'll get some good comments here from guys with a lot of experience that will tell you maybe the same thing as me, maybe slightly varying from what I'm saying. And you can kind of take the best of what they offer and take the best of what they offer and come up with your own strategy. Snowman says, we're only allowed to fuel at the Pilot and Flying J. We are using EFS card. Actually, when I worked at Roadrunner, I had my own personal fuel card called Trucker's Advantage, and I fueled exclusively at Speedway, Pilot, and Flying J. And my discount wasn't all that great, so I ended up getting rid of that card. I'm going to North Carolina to Washington every week. Most of the time I'm driving 70 miles an hour. We're burning fuel like crazy. Yeah, but you got some pretty good climbs going over that way. And so I get that, especially if you're pulling a heavy load. But man, you're seeing some pretty country for sure. I would love to do a run like that. Do a run like that for 2 or 3 weeks at a time and then shoot down to Texas and go home. Yeah, burning fuel like crazy. Sage Outcast, hey, thanks for being here. Texas fuel is cheap. Yes, it is. Yes, it is most of the time. Well, if you consider 3 something a gallon cheap, I'm older than a lot of y'all are. I remember when gas went up to $1 a gallon and people were ticked. I'm going to quit driving. I'm going to sell my car. And of course, nobody did. Now we've got gas in a lot of places that's over $4 a gallon. And if we catch it below 4, we're like, oh, that's cheap. That's cheap. So I think in Lubbock right now, it's somewhere around 370 something a gallon, somewhere in there. I can let you know next video because I'll be there tomorrow. But we're calling that cheap now, and that's insane to me. And McDonald's, go in there and get a combo now, and it's $15. It's crazy how inflation has just made everything nuts, but not rates. There's no inflation in the spot market, trust me. I try not to fill up in California or Washington. It's bad out there, fuel prices. Yeah, that whole West Coast. Now, when I was at Swift, they had a West Coast fuel surcharge, and it made it a little more bearable, but I still tried to just buy enough fuel to get to a cheaper state. 50, 75 gallons, and I'd get somewhere cheaper and then buy. I guess it's different when you team drive. I think we get like 6 or 7. Well, theoretically, you should get better as a team because you're not stopping as much. Theoretically. Now, if you're only running, like the guy that I was reading his text, if you're only running 13,000 miles a month as a team, then you're still stopping like a solo driver. But guys like y'all that are running hard, you should be doing pretty good because you're not stopping very much. I would think you'd be mid 7s, high 7s But some of that's going to depend on what kind of truck you got, how it's geared. Y'all are doing 70, so that's going to have some impact on it. And let's be honest, you're going through some windy states. Some of it's going to depend on if you got a headwind or a tailwind or even a side wind. And there's just a lot of factors that factor into your fuel economy. Yes, I agree. Oregon is crazy. Run away from Oregon. Yes. If the worst thing that ever happens to any of us in our life is that we can't go to Oregon or California again, we'll all be okay. Now, I like Washington. The only thing I don't like about Washington State is, especially if you get around Tacoma and some of those places, it can be difficult to find parking. I've been playing in parts of New Jersey that nobody wants to go. I had 3 pickups, but 1 drop. It's been hell today. Yeah, better you than me. I don't want to go up there. Now, I'll go to certain parts of New Jersey and I'll go to certain parts of New York State, but man, I got beat to death in tolls last time I went up there. So I've been purposefully avoiding that part of the country as much as I can. I noticed a truck run better on half tanks when you load it in the mountains. Pretty much said goes faster. Well, that would work in theory because if you're on a half a tank when you hit the mountains, you're hauling 800 less pounds up the mountains. I don't know that it would make a huge difference. I'll tell you what will make a bigger difference, and a lot of the new trucks do it. Um, when you're going over a hill, they cut it in neutral near the crest of the hill, and then they kind of coast down the hill, and they use the momentum to kind of push them up part of the next hill. And that does seem to help fuel economy a little bit. But you know, the rabbit starts is what hurts people, and the rapid stopping. So if you can kind of coast up to a stop sign when you get on a get off ramp and gradually slow down, that's going to help your fuel economy instead of going right up to the stop sign, slamming on your brakes. Or when you're merging, if you can gradually build up your speed instead of flooring your automatic and seeing how fast you can get up to speed, those little things will make a difference. If you've got a load with plenty of time on it, if you can slow down a little bit, uh, those uh, those things will help a lot. If you've got an auto management system of any kind, and I'm preaching to the choir here, my APU is not working right now, but I save a substantial amount of fuel when it is, and hopefully I'll have time to get it fixed this week or next week. I'm going to talk to the Thermo King dealer while I'm in Lubbock, and usually I get priority and they bring me right in. I'll see what their schedule's looking like and what they can do for me. Fuel in Pennsylvania and Indiana fuel is 5059. Yeah, that's crazy. Who would have ever thought we'd have $5 a gallon diesel? Albert is here. Good evening, Mr. Todd. Good evening, Albert. Thank you for being here. Corey says, I applaud your willingness to take on this subject. I did not realize there was so much ignorance out there among owner operators on fuel. Well, it's a tightrope I got to walk because my goal is to help as many people as I can. But to do that, I've got to point out the flaws in what some people are saying. And when I do that, they can take it that I'm being condescending or that I think I know everything or things like that. And it's not that. I'm just telling you what works for me. Each of you have to decide what works for you. And if you want to do those things he was suggesting, you can do it and see how it works for you. But the deal is, and this is going to be the most arrogant and cocky thing I'm going to say on tonight's video. I'm sure it'll be replayed. I'm sure it'll be taken out of context and used against me. But I'm not contacting people asking them fueling strategies or fuel surcharge or fuel discounts. I know these things. My business is fine. Now, I've got some personal debt that's through the roof that I need to take care of, but my business practices are great. So if they choose to ignore me and do their own thing, that's fine. My business will still be the same tomorrow. But will their business be better tomorrow, or will it still be the same? Well, if they keep doing what they're doing, they're going to keep getting the same results, and, it's like Mike McCarthy of the Cowboys said. He said last season, other teams ran on us at will. Anytime they wanted to run the ball, they could. And he said they're going to keep doing that until we can stop them. And it's really true. You're going to keep getting the same results, whether it's a big run in the NFL, until the other team can stop you. So as long as my strategies keep working, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And if your strategies are working, keep doing what you're doing. But if you find yourself having trouble or not understanding what your fuel discount is or what your fuel surcharge is, try my way and see what your results look like. I get 7 to 8 depending on terrain and speed on 75,000. Yeah, depending on how fast you're going, that's probably not terrible. Now, if Cassius King was here, he would probably tell you that was terrible because he'll do 55, 60 miles an hour and he gets ridiculously good fuel economy. But if you're running 70, 75 and you're getting those kind of numbers with that kind of weight, like you said, depending on terrain, then that's not terrible, I wouldn't think. Also, if DIY is still here, he may comment kind of on what his fleet's been getting lately. Hey, Todd, I got to go. They're working on my stuff. Stay safe out there. All right, man. Good luck with your springs. And Tennessee, fix your roads so that Cameron don't have any more problems out there. Does this owner operator understand the concept of fixed variable cost in cents per mile? No, I don't think he does, because even when he said his numbers, they were pretty varied. And hey, we all got to learn, and it's a work in progress. And there's people listening to this video right now that are much better at bookkeeping and knowing their numbers than I am. And that's okay. We're all a work in progress. That's actually what I like about trucking. None of us have arrived. None of us know all the answers. And every one of us has room for improvement. I don't care how much you're making, how well you're doing. There's something, if you tweak it just a little bit, you can do even better. And that's what I like about trucking most. That, and I love negotiating with the brokers. I ain't even gonna lie, it's fun. I enjoy that more than driving. And I enjoy talking to you guys and helping you guys as well. Hey, speak of the devil, Cassius King is here. Laughing at truckers. DIY says, good evening, Todd. Good evening, sir. Thank y'all for coming in tonight. We have YouTube royalty here tonight. I always feel privileged when they stop by. And they've been, both of them have been really kind to me on YouTube, really supportive, tried to get their viewers to watch my channel, and have really said a lot of nice things about me. And so if any of you in here, they're both really big YouTubers, so I'm sure you've all heard of them. But if any of you in here aren't familiar with those two, please take a minute and go subscribe to both of their channels or check out some of their lives. They're really good. You can learn a lot, and they're usually pretty humorous too. If I had my own truck and I go to West Virginia, I-64 will only fill up half a tank on fuel loaded. I can promise you that. Well, to each their own. I just, I think I would look and see on your route where it's the cheapest and do that. And if you're a company driver, I guarantee you that's what your company's doing when they send you a fuel route. They're looking where they can get the most fuel for the cheapest amount of money. Sorry, on a full load. No Fear says, howdy, everyone. Hello, thank you for being here. Man, we went through the first hour and 20 minutes fast. I went on a little bit of a rant there, didn't I? Snowman says, good, thank you. I'm driving a team. We're driving 6,000 miles a week. Yeah, so you guys are doing in 2 weeks what that other driver's doing in a month. And so he's running what we would call a super single. I would maybe he's training or something like that. He's not a full-fledged team like you guys are because he's not doing full-fledged team miles. But yeah, and his numbers may be off. Like you said, when he gets his settlement today, he's supposed to send it to me and we'll talk about it. We'll see if he does. Hopefully he's not mad at me because he is a friend and I like the guy. It's just there's always something for all of us to learn. And you notice I did ask him in the text if I could talk about it today. I didn't blindside him or ambush him or anything like that. Well, actually, I kind of did. I told him it was going to be Tuesday and it was planned for Tuesday. But now that I got this other load, it had to be today. I must drive 22,000 miles to get my $1,000 bonus. Wow. That's some running, even for a team right there. Oh, okay. I'm almost leaving now. All right. Good deal. I'll talk to you later. Love you all. Bye. Be safe. Good deal. Thank you for being here, Snowman. Y'all be careful out there and thank you for coming in. Snowman's turned out to be a good friend too. Used to go under a different name. I don't know if he wants me saying the other name or not, but great guy and always like when he comes in here. That's crazy. I do almost 10,000 miles a month and I work local hauling fuel. So yeah, that's the only excuse I could make for him dirty is maybe he's a trainer and maybe he's a really good trainer and he doesn't concentrate on miles. He just concentrates on treating his student or training his student good. But even at 13,000 miles a month, uh, that's not that's not great for a super single. And keep in mind, he said he did 28,000 in the last quarter. If one of those months in that 28,000 was the 13,000, then that means he did only 15,000 in the other 2 months. So he's doing 7,000, 7,000, and then 13,000 or something in that area. That's not great. But he admitted his numbers could be off a little bit. I won't rush to judgment there until I see the settlement. Once he is done for the day, does he use the APU or does he leave the truck running? If we're talking about the guy that texts me, he's at Dart, so he does not have an APU. Depending on what truck he has, he might have OptiIdle, and hopefully he's using that. My new Peterbilt is averaging 7.54, running me 52 cents a mile. My average was 3.96 a gallon, 11 fill-ups, trekking over 87. So that's not bad, actually, midlife. You'd always like the fuel economy to be up a little bit, but and you'd like your miles to be a little higher. But yeah, that doesn't sound terrible for the amount of miles and everything you run, and for the kind of stuff y'all haul and where you go and things like that. I've always thought midlife would be a really good owner operator, but he works over at Cheeseman. He's really happy there as a company driver, and I've heard a lot of good things about Cheeseman. If you guys are interested in Cheeseman, holler at Midlife and he'll get you the details on it. I use FuelBook to plan my fuel stops. I fuel where it's the cheapest and fill everything. I don't care if it's. Yeah, I agree with you, Midlife. We're in 100% agreement. Yeah, Midlife's saying it even better than I did a minute ago. So you guys If you missed the first part of the show, read Midlife's last 3 comments, and he basically summarized what I was trying to say. He said exactly, Todd, the fuel gauge is to determine if you have the range, not to determine when to fuel. I agree completely. Very well said. A lot of title chasers in the industry, owner, operator, lease driver, they think they know the trucking industry rather than understanding the industry of trucking. This is a great point, and I heard a YouTuber say this the other day. I wish I could remember his name because it was a great comment. He said the best thing about being an owner operator is being able to tell somebody that you own a truck. He said the worst thing about being an owner operator is the stress that comes with it. And this would be my message to all the companies out there right now that are doing a lease purchase. There's a lot of guys that are doing their very first one that have a lot of questions, just like that guy was reading his text about the fuel surcharge, about fuel discounts. Have a class. Prime used to have a class. I don't know if they still do. Back in the early 2000s, they used to have a class they made you take when you leased a truck, and they taught you how to buy fuel and how to read your settlement and things like that. If these companies would do that, they would cut their turnover rate probably in half, because what happens is a guy comes in, you know, he gets his truck, he thinks he's going to make all this money, and he doesn't know what he's doing, and he falls on his face, and then he's struggling, he's getting behind on his bills, his wife's yelling at him, and he doesn't know what he doesn't know. He needs to be taught. Just like we teach people how to drive a truck, we need to teach people how to be an owner operator. And you know, I do what I can here, other YouTubers do what they can there, but we're a very small amount of people, and let's be honest, not everybody watches YouTube. And I agree with you. I knew a guy at Roadrunner that his first 7 weeks with the company, he spent 6 of them at home. Then he called me because they had so many weeks without a truck payment back then. Then he called me and said, "Hey, Trucker Todd, uh, I've only worked 1 week in the last 7 weeks. Can you call the company and see if they'll give me 2 more weeks with no truck payment?" And I started laughing. I was like, "No, I'm not going to do that." He's like, "Oh, but Todd, you don't understand." I said, "Why in the world would you be home for 7 of your 8 weeks or 6 of your 7, whatever it was?" He said, "Well, I had to put my CB in my truck." I said, "I can do that in under an hour." He said, "Well, I had to pack my truck." I said, "I can do that in a day." He said, "Well, we had a family reunion." I said, "Why didn't you do your family reunion before you went to orientation? And then you would uh, have that extra week to be out here making money." "Well, I wanted to go ahead and get the truck." So he took the truck home, parked it at his house, showed his friends and family. "I'm a big owner operator. Look at my pretty truck." And now he is almost 2 months in with no revenue, about to go under. And I think a lot of guys do that. They park the truck in their driveway, they polish the chrome. Um, Quite honestly, some of them make TikTok videos and YouTube videos. "Oh, look at my pretty truck. I'm an owner operator." And then they really struggle because they don't know what a fuel surcharge is. They don't know how to buy fuel. They don't know what a fuel discount is. And it's a real shame. We need to have a better training apparatus at these companies. And the companies, from their viewpoint, they would say, "Hey, these are independent contractors. They should know their trade." And there's some truth to that too. When they hire a roofer to roof their terminals, they don't go out there and give the roofer a training class on how to put a roof on. They assume if they're hiring him as an independent contractor, he knows what he's doing. And so maybe there's some truth to that as well. When I go to get my hair cut, I don't give my barber a training class. I assume that they know how to cut my hair, that they're licensed, and that they've been doing it for a while and things like that. Nothing against you or the other guy, but doing things through texting when it comes to fuel or something difficult like that doesn't work. You got to call or send them a book. LOL. Yeah, Tim. What I didn't say prior to reading that text is I've talked to this guy for hours on the phone. He just, for some reason, his brain has trouble registering what a fuel surcharge is and what a fuel discount is. And I'm not beating up on him. Some of this is not his fault. Dart used to preach that just buy enough fuel for each trip. Don't worry about the price. Just get enough for each trip. And then they went to the other extreme. Just buy it as cheap as you can. Don't even think about this other stuff. And but yeah, me and this guy have talked on the phone several times, and he's come in the comments several times. I hadn't seen him in here tonight, but he said he was going to listen. I think he was expecting the video to be tomorrow night though, so he may watch the replay later. How long has this gentleman been a self-employed truck driver? That is a great question that I don't fully know the answer to. I want to say like a couple of years at Dart, year and a half at Dart at least. And then I think he may have tried it at some other places. But again, I'm not beating up on this guy. I get this question probably a couple of times a week from all different kinds of guys. Some of them are guys that's never done a lease purchase, and I get it from those guys. At least they're asking before they jump in. You know, it's like going to a swimming pool and they're asking, how do you swim before you jump in the water? That's a lot better than being in the water and drowning and then going, hey, how do I swim? So I appreciate the questions from the experienced and the unexperienced, but yeah, he's got some experience. He's not a newbie, and I think Dart requires a year or two of experience before they'll even let you lease a truck. So he's definitely not a rookie. Hey, Ramon, thank you for being here. I'm sorry I'm doing it on the wrong day. Man, it's getting warm in here. Shane says, good afternoon, Mr. Todd. Good afternoon, Shane. Thank you for being here. Good day, Todd. Good day. Clarence, thank you for being here. Just came from Portland, Oregon, over $5 a gallon. Yeah, somebody said in Pennsylvania it was 5.05 a gallon. It's definitely not the time to be wasting fuel. Shane says he got rear-ended by a stupid box truck driver in Columbus, Ohio. That doesn't surprise me. You see them going down the road with their feet up on the dash, watching Netflix or texting their girlfriend, or just all kinds of crazy stuff out here. I don't know about, and it ain't just the box truck drivers. I've noticed a real decline in drivers lately. And I think we ought to go backhand all the parents, because theoretically the parents are the ones that should have taught their kids how to drive. And they obviously didn't teach them correctly. Yeah, Tim says his cruise goes into neutral at the crest and coasts down the hills. That was that feature I was talking about, that it'll frustrate the heck out of you while you're driving the truck, and it'll even scare the crap out of you the first time it does it. But PACCAR determined that that saves fuel because it uses inertia and things like that to increase your fuel economy. I can remember in '96 when I started driving, some guys would throw it in neutral to try to get some speed going down the hills if it was a straight hill and you could see the bottom. And safety at Swift at the time would fire you for that. They considered it dangerous. But now that we got automatics, a lot of trucks do it, and it's just considered normal practice. We've been upgrading to newer trucks, boosting fleet average nearly 1 full mile per gallon. If you don't mind DIY, what's your fleet average right now? What's your average truck at your company getting for fuel economy? If you don't mind saying, I'm just curious. Is it high sevens, low eights, somewhere in there? Fuel goes in the income column with line haul, totally irrelevant where I fuel. Fuel goes in the income column with line haul. You may have to help me with that one, Chris. Thanks for being here. Chris is a friend of mine too. He used to call me all the time. I don't hear from him much anymore, but he's still a friend and always glad when he drops in. Um, I think I would disagree because fuel is an expense and not income. Maybe he meant the fuel surcharge. I think that's what he meant. I think he meant that the fuel surcharge is income, which it is, and it is irrelevant to where you fuel. But if you can fuel at cheaper places and get better fuel economy, it'll make that fuel surcharge that much more valuable. When I was owner operator running 65 to 68, saving that fuel. Yeah. At Swift, I did 60 to 62 as much as I could. That seemed to be that truck's sweet spot. This truck here seems like it does best around 65, but I ain't even gonna lie, I've been running the speed limit here lately, cramming loads in, but I've been getting decent rates, or decent for the times we're in, and so yeah, that's what I've been doing. I track all my fuel in Let's Truck app from Kevin Rutherford. It makes it easy. Yeah, that's the one I was talking about when I was talking about the Kevin Rutherford app. It's a subscription service, but a lot of guys use it and swear by it. Hey, Red Raider Reloading is here. Pretty good. I'm going to your place of employment tomorrow at 4:30. I got a delivery there. Red Raider Reloading has a question for Tim Back. Have you adjusted the cruise control settings yet? Maybe Tim will answer you back here in just a second. I'll put it on screen if he does. I know the truck I drive has plus or minus setting, and once I adjust it, it won't do that. Well, he likes it, Red Raider, because he's a owner operator, so he likes the fuel economy savings. When he first got his truck, and Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, he was kind of not sure if he liked it or not, the truck in general. And as he's driven it the other day, he called me and he had a lot of positive things to say about his truck. So I think he's pretty happy overall with most things on the truck. I think there's still a couple of things he wants to tweak, and he may comment on that or not comment on that here. But at the cruise, I think he was citing an example of what I was talking about earlier. Nothing wrong with buying fuel per trip as long as it's the lowest price fuel you can get in the span of the trip. However, if you can get the fuel at the lowest price in the country, then I'm filling up. Yeah, but the problem is when you deliver, eventually you're going to end up in a place where it's really expensive and where you don't have enough to get out and you have to buy that expensive fuel. Let me give you an example. If I had a load going to California and let's say it was Dallas to California, and I just bought enough fuel to get it to Ontario to deliver the load, I'm going to have to buy 50 to 75 gallons to get out of California and get to a cheaper place. Whereas if I did that same trip and I filled up in Gallup, I can probably make it all the way into California and back out before I have to buy fuel. Or even if I hold out for Arizona, which is more expensive, I can make it all the way into California and all the way out without having to fuel. So I get what you're saying about, yeah, you can buy it trip by trip. And I do that sometimes if I'm needing to have a big check. Like I got a bunch of bills this week, so I need to have a big check. Maybe I do that. Maybe I fuel for a trip. But as a long-term strategy, if you can strategically buy your fuel and when it's cheapest, then that's going to benefit you a lot more in the long run. But I get what you're saying, Tim. That cruise feature you're talking about is predictive cruise control. Yep, yep, you are correct. And the first time it malfunctioned on my Dart truck, it said PCC inactive or something like that. I freaked out. I thought it was going to break down. And all it was it communicates with satellites, and it just meant that it lost its satellite signal. And as soon as it got back in satellite range, that signal went, or that warning light went away. But you are correct. It's called predictive cruise control. And if for those of you that's never read about it, if you Google it, it's actually a pretty interesting feature. Okay, good. Yeah, Chris meant fuel surcharge. You are correct, Chris. Fuel surcharge is nothing but income, and people make it a lot more complicated than what it has to be. So I totally agree with Chris. Fuel surcharge is nothing more than income, and it has nothing to do with where you fuel. Think of your fuel surcharge as a bonus, and just buy your fuel as cheap as you can. But let me go down a little. Here we go. He had a typo there. Buy it cheap and slow down. Yeah, Chris, I agree with you. Um, so Chris agrees with me in what we were talking about earlier. Fuel surcharge is like a bonus. It's revenue. Concentrate on buying it cheap and buying it smart and slowing down, not idling when you don't have to. Using your idle management systems as much as you can. Things like that. Yeah, that's true. Ramones, I've seen some better than that. The new 579 Pete Packard, some do 9. Yeah, there was some guys over at Christensen that were getting over 10. Some guys at at Swift with Volvos were getting in the 10 to 11 range. It really just depends where you're at and what you're hauling and how well you manage your truck. But yeah, nine's not out of the range right now. And to keep that in perspective, some of the old big 400 Cummins engines, I forget what they called them. Some of them were getting 4 miles a gallon. So we've over doubled fuel economy on these new trucks, just as long as we can keep them out of the shop with all these dang emissions things. And just imagine what trucks could get now if they didn't have all this emissions junk on them. They could probably get 15, 20 miles a gallon. Probably 15. Sometimes I like to keep it on economy, and when I'm in a hurry, I just put the pedal to the floor and push through it. There you go. So yeah, sometimes he keeps it on an economy, and sometimes he lets it roll. I think right now he's letting it roll. He's got a heavy load and got a lot of mountains to climb, so I wouldn't blame him if he put that pedal on the floor. Yeah, me too. Tim's a good dude. I'm glad he's liking his truck as well. I'm sure, Todd, that the company has got some free food. Yeah, that's what I miss working for the other company. I used to get a lot of free food there. Now that I'm just a common carrier, I don't get nothing. And there's only a few people there that still remember me. A lot of them have quit. But yeah, I probably won't be getting nothing free. If you're getting that dark green fuel is good. Sometimes the cheap fuel is like water clear. That's why it's cheap. Yeah, there's been some instances of that in the past where people were adding stuff to the fuel to make it stretch longer. Uh, Same thing happened. There's a national fast food chain that was adding stuff to their ketchup, and it would make it real thin and runny, but it'd make the ketchup last longer for the French fries. So there's definitely some corners that truck stops can cut to uh, to give you less actual fuel and make money. So you do need to be careful where you're buying and things like that. Yeah, that's what I say in midlife. This is where we have a lot of competing theories. Always remember to calculate fuel costs less IFTA. The IFTA will cost you the same whether you pay it at the pump or quarterly. That's what a lot of people say. Some people say leave it on there because you're going to pay for IFTA either way. Some people say take it off. And so once we start getting into the realm of Texas, or taxes, not Texas, I'm in Texas. I step back and let you guys do whatever you think's best for your business. I'm just telling you about fuel. But yeah, for IFTA, talk to your company or talk to your tax professional and do what makes the most sense for your business. Have you seen that Christensen now has technology in the trucks to disable personal phone apps when moving, and it tells on you if you have a second device? Burner phone won't work. How would it know? I'm not doubting you. I've heard part of this, but just a general question. How would it know if you had a burner phone? Because that'd be a totally separate line. Um, I just don't want. I don't want somebody in my phone that deep. I've got two phones, total of three different numbers. The number that you guys call and that my family calls is on one phone, and the number that brokers call and brokers track me on is on another phone, and my ELD's on a tablet. So I keep all that stuff separate, but I would never agree to an app like that. Walmart had something similar to that where they could look at all that stuff from what I understand. And I just feel like I'm not a lawyer. Let me say that before I get sued or get another cease and desist. I'm not a lawyer, but that just feels like an invasion of privacy to me. Are they going to give me access to their phone so I can see what apps they're using? Hey, Todd, will insurance cover my downtime when my truck is getting repaired on the shop? Depends on your insurance. My truck's going to be going in the shop in the coming weeks for some repairs, and my insurance said that after, I think it was 20 days or 21 days, that I'd get $50 a day, but it's really unlikely I'll be down that long. So I mean, there's different riders you can get on your policy. There's tow truck riders, there's downtime riders, and you just need to talk to your insurance agent and see what your policy covers and don't cover. And it's not a bad thing to do periodically anyway. Just call and hit them with hypothetical situations. Well, what if this happened? Would I be covered? Well, what if that happened? Would I be covered? And you may want to modify your coverage. If it's $10 a month more, it might be worth it. If it's $300 a month more, it probably ain't worth it. It detects another signal in the truck. But how do they know that? And I'm just playing devil's advocate here. How do they know that that other signal's not your wife sitting in the passenger seat? Do they not want her to be on her phone either while you're driving? I went to the website of the company. It's called No Cell. It's hardware in the truck on the windshield and an app. So it's probably using AI to watch you. And back to this, I don't think it'll be that long until somebody figures out a way around that to where they can deceive no cell. Maybe not. I'm not an expert on it. I just wonder, how do they know that it's not a truck passing you on the highway or drag racing you on the highway? You know how trucks will get up right beside you and hang there for a long time? I'm sure it's smarter than that. I got a lot of questions, but there's a lot of nice people working over there, but I couldn't go to work there with stuff like that. New Mexico I-40 state line with Arizona. That truck stop mixed the fuel when you putting fuel that not smell like diesel. Yeah, I know which truck stop you're talking about. I would never fuel there. Those pumps, if we're talking about the same place, those pumps look like they're 100 years old. Exactly. Exactly. Midlife says, especially if you're a lease operator. You know, if you're a company driver, maybe I get it. But as an independent contractor, I just, am I an independent contractor or am I a glorified company driver? And if I'm a glorified company driver, why don't I just be a company driver? Because their balloon payment over there is $90,000. So you're not going to, how many people are going to save $90,000 anyway and pay the truck off? Probably not. You're just going to re up into another one. So, I mean, if you're going to micromanage me to that point, then I might as well just be a company driver. How do we remove red dye from fuel? Asking for a friend. I don't believe there's a way. I don't, but I'll be honest though, I am shocked that somebody hadn't developed a chemical on the internet that counteracts the red dye and makes it look like green diesel. Oh boy, I got to get a drink. I just figured out why it's hot in here. Hang on just a second. I didn't have my air up all the way. All right, seat's coming back up. I got rear-ended by a box driver, so it's 100% his fault. Isn't his insurance supposed to pay my downtime? Um, Probably, but you may have to get a lawyer to make that happen. I got to be careful here because I'm not a insurance agent or a lawyer, but I believe that you'd have a pretty decent case. I would probably contact like a personal injury lawyer or something like that, and see what you could get. But it's going to be a long, slow process. You're not going to get that money this Friday. It might be 2 or 3 years before you see the money. Doesn't matter. It tells the company, and then they can decide if it's allowed. Oh, I would not like that midlife. Not at all. I can promise you the color of the diesel doesn't have anything to do with the quality of it. They add green dye to the fuel. Same. Yeah, he wasn't saying that. He was joking about red diesel is cheaper. And he was talking about uh, if he could get red diesel to save money. It was a joke he was doing. Yeah, it's the same diesel. They just add a red dye because that's for like reefers and off-road use, and the green diesel is for like highway use, and it has the highway taxes on it and all of that. So he was joking about saving for fuel. And incidentally, if you get caught in a way station with red dye diesel, get ready for some enormous fines. I have a Swift Walmart dedicated account near my house. It is a reefer count. Any thoughts? I'm very tempted to be home daily. So here's what I would say about the Walmart dedicated Swift accounts. They have good and bad. The problem with them is they pay horrible rates on most of them. You'd want to check the contract, read it very carefully before you sign up for it. The good to it is you get to fuel at the Walmart terminals and you get some ridiculously cheap fuel. So, or you did at the time I worked there. You'd want to check with other drivers on that account. So if you can live with the cheap rate, knowing you're going to get cheap fuel to go with it, it might be a pretty nice thing to get on. It really varies from DC to DC. I've heard some of them are really good and some of them are really bad. Also, we're coming up on the time of year where they do those oh, I forget what they call it, where they need seasonal drivers basically, and they'll bring a bunch of people in, and so you could kind of try it out, and they'll end up keeping some of them if they do good through the season. So it could be a good deal. Which one is close to your house? And it may be one I've heard about. I have to idle right now. 2024 579. My EPU error has issue. Yeah, I'm having to idle right now because, and I'm gonna have to take my hat off. Even with the truck running, it's hot in here. I'm having to idle right now. The alternator's out on my APU, and I'm hearing that's like an $800 repair. I really hope not, but we're gonna find out soon. Try to get it looked at this week. You get a tube about 2 feet long. You put normal diesel. Yeah, you'll get caught because from what I understand, it stains the inside of your tank. And I'm not going to recommend anybody do anything illegal on this channel. What y'all do on your own that I don't know about is up to y'all. But you'll get caught because you'll eventually spill some on your tank or something, and they'll see that red dye when you pull in a scale. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Red diesel is farm diesel or off road. Yep, it's for like tractors, um, things like that, diesel generators. It's not for over the road trucking. Exactly. It's for off road. I do believe I said that, but thank y'all for restating that. Man, everybody's going to restate it now. That's right, midlife. Yep, that's true. And in Texas, the Railroad Commission and the Department of Agriculture have a lot of power. People don't realize that, but yeah, they'll tell on you in a hurry. And I don't know what the fine is. I've heard all kinds of numbers, but it's a lot. A lot of people think red diesel is different from regular diesel. However, the only difference is I'm loading my trailer. There's an injector that sprays in the dye. Yeah, I do believe, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, I do believe you can use red diesel in your reefer, but I'm not even 100% sure about that. Most of the truck stops just have number 2 road diesel, the green stuff. That's it. Midlife remembered what I was trying to say. Surge drivers was what they called it. And Swift had them for Target and for Walmart and maybe for some other accounts. That's the ones I always heard of. Yeah, I think the ones in Florida are pretty good. I think those are pretty good. I've heard good things about them. I've heard the one in Los Lunas, New Mexico can be kind of hit or miss, and some of the other ones can be kind of hit or miss, but the ones in Florida are pretty good. Pay per trip based on the miles. Well, before yeah, you would just, like I said, they changed that stuff around so much that I don't want to comment on specifics, but a lot of guys would just sign it and not read the contract. And then they'd get their first settlement and be ticked and go, I don't want to do this. Read the contract carefully because it's a lot different than an over the road contract. Already losing my voice. A couple of years ago down here in my hometown, that was a guy running red diesel. He put a fuel tank under the sleeper for red diesel. Man, did he get caught or did he get away with it? Ah, okay, there you go. So I was correct. You can put red diesel in the reefer. And if I remember correctly, some of the truck stops back in the day and some of the truck terminals had red diesel, and that's what you put in the reefer, and then you put green diesel in the truck. But that was a long time ago. Now everybody just puts green in everything. You can use red diesel and reefer units, anything that is not used to power a vehicle. Ah, there you go. There's the clarification. I thought that's what my memory was, but I knew some of you reefer haulers would know for sure. Container reefer from the porch uses, yeah, I bet so. And you can't really blame them. It saves them some money and it keeps truck drivers from siphoning it out into their trucks. I'd heard of guys doing that too, that they would, they'd put 10 gallons in their reefer and say they put 35 and they'd put the other 25 in their truck. And I heard that happens a lot now that most of the truck stops just have green diesel. But it just looks like a lot of risk for very little benefit. Sure, you save a little money, but it just is it worth the risk or not? Wow, we've gone over 2 hours with a surprise impromptu live and still had a decent following. We didn't have everybody here, but it's because I kind of dropped it on everybody as a last minute. So they're live tomorrow night. I'll be getting unloaded at that time, but I'll try to put out a recorded video in the morning. I still got to do some editing and put it together. But yeah, I appreciate everybody being here. And if you guys got anything else, throw it up. And if not, I'll probably wrap it up pretty soon. All righty, it's getting pretty quiet in the comments. I guess we'll go ahead and close this one out. I want to thank everybody for being here. Hey, Tim had a good one. If this is the show for tomorrow, when do we get the makeup show for last Thursday? So this is actually a 2-for-1 special. This is 2 shows for one right here. I hope you got double the entertainment for half the video content. I learned a little bit this past winter. We have a customer that gets kerosene and a diesel blend. They also add anti-gel on. Wow. I had a guy tell me at a truck stop, and he may have been messing with me. He was telling me that he has a small propane tank on his truck and that they can inject propane into the engine and that it works like nitrous on a gasoline car and that he can get temporary boosts of power off of that propane. I'm pretty sure he was pulling my leg, but mechanically, I don't know if that's true or not. I put up a short, but remember to get your. Oh yeah. Yep. It and I get free ones at another truck stop with my ES Advantage card. But sometimes if I'm at a Pilot Flying J, I'll run in there and get a free one. You just have to let them swipe your rewards card, and I think you have to accept the offer in the app, but I'm not sure about that part. If they get you with red diesel on your truck, hope you have a lot of money in the bank. We all do. We're all truck drivers, and we're all the richest people in the world. Every one of us is making 300,000 a year. No, I get you, man. Yeah, some of these people are so desperate to, that's what's funny. They'll say, I need to minimize my expenses. I need to make more money. And so I'm gonna defraud the government and run red diesel. And you say, well, all you got to do is watch your idling, slow down, and manage your fuel. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. I want to put illegal diesel in my truck and hope I get away with it. Good one, buddy. That's thinking on your toes, my friend. Thank you, Tim. Free Starbucks double shot and free. Oh man, I'd like that. I need to. I'm at a TA right now, but and there's a Love's across the street, but I need to find me a Pilot Flying J. So it was true what that guy was telling me. Dirty Diesel says, yeah, liquid propane in a diesel acts just like nitrous. Does all the electronics and computer controls on a truck now, will it mess that stuff up? And the emissions, or do you have to just run it on older trucks, or what? That was the first I heard of it. Midlife says, yeah, you have to save the offer in the app. All right, so there you go, guys. If y'all want to get some free drinks, Pilot Flying J is where you need to go right now. Down here in my hometown, all the containers. Yep. I've heard a lot of them do that. So it's $1,000 fine for the first offense. That's actually a lot better than I heard. I heard 10,000. I heard 25,000. 1,000 seems more realistic. My question would be this. Maybe some of y'all know the answer to this. Let's say I pull into a scale and I get busted. I've got red diesel in my truck. I pay the $1,000 fine. How do I get that red dye out so that I don't get busted 20 miles down the road at the next scale? Or do they put some kind of sticker on my tank that says, hey, we've already hit this guy? Or, how do I prevent from getting hit over and over and over? It's something I've never contemplated doing, so I got a lot of really rookie questions about this. Oh, well, that's good. Midlife Trucker did a short on YouTube about all the free stuff at Pilot Flying J. If you guys want to know more about that, check out Midlife Trucker Tom Bell's YouTube channel and his shorts specifically, and he talks about those promos. He also does a really cool thing with a drone at truck stops, showing people backing into spots. I got to admit, though, I just watch to see if I'll see a truck hit another truck, but it is kind of cool to watch. I'm pretty sure the propane would definitely mess with the emissions. Yeah, I would think so too. Like, I would think that would work great probably when I had that '08 Volvo. Probably would not work great in a 2020 Kenworth. I don't think you're not moving from there. Okay, I don't catch that one. I missed what you were saying, Ramon. You may have to type it a different way. Did my picture freeze or something? Okay, I'm going to take it down for a second. There's the website if y'all hadn't checked it out. Go over and check out truckertodd.net or email me at todd@truckertodd.net. Give me a thumbs up, share this video, make sure you're subscribed, tell your friends about the channel. We're circling the drain. We're going to be wrapping it up here soon, but I appreciate each and every one of you joining me for this surprise video. Quick reminder, there won't be a live tomorrow night at 5 p.m. Central Time, although we do try to have them on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5 p.m. Central Time as often as we can. And provided that the phone lets me, I'm going to try to do a recorded video that'll come out at 9 a.m. Central Time tomorrow. Let's see here. My wife watches for the parking lot hits too. The last one had a few fails. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. A Swift driver had 3 weeks in the industry. She did a blindside back after others couldn't do it. She did have a ground guide. Yeah, if she went to a Swift training school, they kind of practice those things. So I mean, quite honestly, she's probably better at a blindside back than I am. That's not my strong suit. I'm an average backer. And so, yeah, but it's kind of cool to watch your videos when you do that. Those are my favorite ones. Tim says, have a good night. Thank you, sir. Give me a call sometime, Tim. If they get you with red fuel in a way station, you're not going anywhere. Yeah, I think they put you out of service. I think they do put you out of service. All right. We're down to 21, so that tells me the older part of the audience is starting to go to bed. And I need to do some stuff to get ready to work tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up. I appreciate everybody being here, and we'll catch you on the next one. Make sure you check out that recorded video I got coming out in the morning, and then we'll see you Thursday night, hopefully. I may be in Lubbock at that time. I don't know where I'll be. Oh, wait, still got a little more I got to do. And then I'm going for real. She came in with her CDL. They gave her 2 weeks training, and she got out in her Freightliner. Well, somebody taught her well if she can blindside back like that. Ramon says, good night, buddy. Good night, everyone. Thank y'all for being here. We'll catch you on the next one. Y'all take care.